The Princess of the Chalet School, Chapter 3. On honor for the Chalet School. Joey, Joey! Coming! Joey Bettany swung herself down from the big tree in which she had been sitting and raced across the grass towards the house, where her elder sister Madge was standing waiting for her. "Where on earth were you?" demanded the latter, as her small sister reached her side. "I've been looking all over for you." "I was only in the chestnut tree," explained Joey, holding out her hands in corroboration of her statement. "Why didn't you call before?" "I'd have shouted, and then you wouldn't have to look for me." "I thought you were practicing," replied Madge. "How you do love to climb about, Joey." The two sisters began to stroll down the path to the high gate, the withes' fence which kept summer visitors from gazing in at the girls during school hours and acting as a deterrent on girls who preferred to see what people outside were doing to getting on with their work. It had been built during the previous Easter to take the place of the one which had been swept away by the flooding of the mountain stream that flowed into the lake from the great Turnjock and helped to divide the triangle of Brassow where the Chalet School was situated. Herr Brahm, the landlord of Miss Bettany, had had the fence erected again while she and the school were on holiday, and it was a good, substantial affair now, with strong iron staves driven into the ground at the frequent intervals for supports, and with a double interlacing of the withes. The two Bettanys walked down the gate, opened it, and crossed the little bridge the kindly Trolline had put over the deep ditch he had dug to carry off water in case of such a thing should happen again, and turned down the lake road in the direction of the Post Hotel, one of the largest there. "Where are we going?" demanded Joey. "To the post. Herr Schneider is ill, and I'm going to fetch the letters, if there are any." "There ought to be one from India. Dick is awfully regular. He's a jolly, decent brother that way," declared Joey. "Molly isn't bad either. Isn't it funny?" she went on. "We've got a sister-in-law. Had her more than a year, and neither of us has seen her. At least you can't count photos, really, can you?" "It isn't quite the same thing," acknowledged Madge. "What's wrong with Herr Schneider?" asked Joe. "He got wet in the storm 2 days ago, and he's gone down with an attack of the pleurisy. Everyone will have to fetch letters just now, I'm afraid, until he's better." "Hard lines on the people who live right up the valley. It means a walk then." "There aren't very many letters that way during this part of the year," said Madge. "Here we are. Run along in and ask if there are any for us." Joe vanished up the steps of the hotel to the room that was dignified by the name of the post office, and presently returned with a handful of letters and postcards, which she gave to her sister. "See if there's one from India," she coaxed. Madge shook her head. "Look at the sky. It's going to be another downpour. We must fly, if we don't want to get wet. Come along." She tucked the letters into her pocket, and the two went racing home at top speed, for neither of them had hats or coats, and Joey was only in her blazer for warmth. They reached the door just as the first drops began to fall, and turned into the study, where Madge sent her sister to change her shoes. Joey had been exceptionally delicate up to 2 years ago, when they had come from England to the Troll to start the school, which had prospered so amazingly, and even now, when she was far stronger than they had ever thought possible, colds were still a thing to be avoided in her case, though they were no longer the bugbears they had once been. She had heaps of spirit, but she would never be robust, and Madge still suffered agonies of anxiety about her from time to time. She hurried back to find her sister sorting out the letters at express speed. Here you are, she said, giving one bundle to the child. Put those on the table, and then you can come back. There's a letter from India. Jo vanished with the letters, which she hastily spread out on the table in the spisal, and then returned to the study. The others will get wet, she said, as she glanced out of the window. It's literally emptying down. What does Dick say? Is there one from Molly? Give me time, laughed Madge. I haven't opened it yet. She slid open the envelope as she spoke and drew out the letter. There isn't, said Jo, as she watched her sister unfold it. Well, what has Dick got to say? Madge glanced down the page of straggling writing which had never lost his schoolboyish characteristics. Then she gave vent to an exclamation. Oh, what is it? Demanded Jo, who had nearly dancing with impatience. Madge, they aren't coming here, are they? He doesn't say so, replied Madge, who was pink with excitement. It's Joey. Who do you think you are? A genius, replied Joey promptly. Idiot. I didn't mean that, laughed her sister. No, listen. And don't burst with excitement. You're an ant. A what? Jo clutched her head. Listen, said Madge as she read. Dear kids, the biggest joke in creation. You'll never believe it, and Molly and I are still booting over it. What do you think has happened? We've got twins, it's true, a boy and a girl. Imagine us with twins. We can't believe it ourselves, and it's the joke of the season, one dark like Moll, and the others fair like me. Molly is awfully happy, and I don't know whether I'm standing on my head or on my heels. We are going to call them Margaret Josephine and Richard Geoffrey, to be known as Peggy and Rix. Well, gasped Jo, when her sister had got so far. Isn't it just exactly like Dick and Molly? Twins! It's extraordinary, agreed Madge. They're calling the girl after us both. How nice of them. She'll be another pupil for the Chalet School one day, said Jo, spinning round on her toes like a dancing dervish. Hurry, we are growing, aren't we? Madge broke into peals of laughter. Oh, Joey Bettany, you will be the death of me. Fancy talking of a school for a baby not 2 months old. Why, it will be years and years before she's old enough for that. The robin was only 6, said Joey. There were special reasons for that, replied Madge quickly, and Joey said no more. The robin, the school baby, had come to them a year ago, when her mother had died in decline, and her father, an English officer, had been obliged to leave her to go on business. She had settled down very happily among them, and had soon adopted her head mistress as an aunt. But neither of the Bettany girls could forget the tragedy which had touched her baby life. So Joey's remark had scarcely been a happy one. Madge heard the sound of merry voices and a rush of feet. There are the girls, she exclaimed. Joey, run and tell Miss Carthew that I want them all to change at once. We don't want any of them to catch colds this term. Joey grimaced expressively as she fled to the side door where the jolly crew were entering the house. The last part of her sister's speech had referred to herself and a bad cold she had caught on the previous Sunday. If it hadn't been for that cold, she would have gone with the others and had been arriving with them. She gave the message to the mistress, who promptly sent the girls upstairs to change, and then turned into the study to report before she went across to her own quarters in the junior house, known as the Petit Chalet, for the same purpose. As she left the room, she met Jo, who was wandering back to her sister. The Bettanys were devoted to each other, and one of Joey's greatest grievances was that she could not see much of her sister during terms. Miss Bettany was just going to send for you, Joey, she said with a smile. She seems to want you rather especially. Thank you, Miss Carthew, said Joey. She waited for the mistress to pass and then went in to find her sister with a letter before her, a startled look on her delicate face. "What on earth's the matter?" demanded Joe, wildly curious at once. Miss Bethany turned to Joey. "Joey, I want you. Oh, dear," she went on rather incoherently. "How everything does seem to happen at once." "What's happened now?" asked Joe. The answer was sufficiently startling. "I'm asked to take a princess as a pupil for next term." "What?" Joe was too much surprised for politeness. "A princess? What princess?" "Her father is the crown prince of Bulcernia," Madge replied. "Bulcernia?" Joe frowned fiercely as she tried to remember where Bulcernia was. "Yes, it's one of the smaller Balkan states, not far from the Italian border," replied her sister. "This child, Princess Levsavita, is the only child of the crown prince. She has been ill, it seems, and the doctor recommends school for her. This man, his secretary, I suppose, and an Englishman, evidently, has written asking for a prospectus, as the doctor advises sending her to us, Joey." She swung round to her younger sister. "What do you think? Can we manage with a princess in school?" "Rather." "Why ever not?" demanded Joey, wide-eyed. "I should think it would be a jolly good thing for the school. Oh, take her, Madge. I'll see that she isn't sat on too much. But I say, why do you want my opinion? You aren't in the habit of asking my advice." "I know." Miss Bethany looked serious. "The fact of the matter, Joey, is that though I shouldn't dream of asking you about the other girls as a general rule, yet in this case I must. I can't even consider the idea if it's going to upset the others, and some of them have a most exaggerated idea of royalty." "Ask them to let her come as an ordinary girl, then," suggested Joey. "I'll think over what you say," said Miss Bethany slowly. "In the meantime, say nothing about it. You will have heaps to tell the others anyway, if you tell them about the twins. Remember, Joey, you must say nothing to anyone." "Guide's honor," replied Joe rapidly. "What did you say her name was?" "Elisaveta. It is the Romanian form of Elizabeth. I can't decide anything about it yet, Joey." "She may never come, all the same." "All the same, it's an honor for the Chalet School," added Joe, as she turned to go and wash her hands and tidy her hair before her meal. Madge concurred with this opinion. "Yes, it is an honor for us. Run along now, Joey bebe." Joey trotted off, leaving her elder sister divided between pride and indecision. She wasn't sure just what to do, but it was an honor. Chapter 4. Matron. 19, 20, 21, 22. All the face towels are correct, matron. What shall I do next? Matron, a little thin woman, with a face that Joey Bethany had decided to be exactly like a weasel's, finished what she was doing and then looked round at the speaker. "Have you finished those, Joe? Then take yourself off. I want no idle schoolgirls bothering round me when I am busy. And take the child with you. She's nothing but a pest and a torment." She turned and picked up the towels, marching off, leaving behind her a Joey literally speechless with indignation. At the end of the previous term, the matron, Miss Bethany, had, engaged a year before, had left to go home and keep house for a brother who had lost his wife, and was left with 3 boys and a tiny girl. Miss Bethany had had too much to do to go to England, and had engaged her new matron through an agency. Miss Webb had arrived 2 days before, and already the young head was ruefully telling herself that she had made a mistake this time. The newcomer was a little bustling woman with a loud and unpleasant voice, a domineering manner, and an irritable temper. to the family 4, Madge, Joey, and Robin, and Juliet Carrick, the head mistress's ward. Miss Webb was everything she ought not to be. Matron could not do with the girls helping with the various duties. The 3 girls had always given a hand in the somewhat strenuous period of getting ready for the new term, and they were simply flabbergasted when one offer of assistance after another was refused, or else accepted so curtly as to take all the joy of helping out of everything they did. However, Joey and Juliet were guides, and the Robin was a brownie, so they did their level best to smile. The Robin was rather pathetic about it, however. "Zoe, I aren't a nuisance?" she said piteously, when she had had some tablets of soap taken out of her hands with the remark, "Oh, go away and play outside, you little nuisance, you." Joe's reply was not quite judicial. "Of course you're not, darling. She's a cross old cat, and you're ever so much of a help." Unfortunately for her, her sister heard her and read her a lecture on backing up authority to the juniors. "I'm sorry if I've let you down, Madge," said the culprit, "but she is cross, and it was horrid of her to call Robin a nuisance, when she isn't. She was only helping, just as she always does." "I cannot help that, Joey," said her sister gravely. "You had no right to call her names to the baby. You know how the Robin looks up to you and copies you in every way, and it was exceedingly naughty of you. If she tells the others, they will instantly take to all sorts of unpleasant names for the matron, and it will only make things more difficult." "You do think she will give us an unpleasant term, then?" said Joe shrewdly. "I am a beast, Madge. I didn't think of that. I won't call her names to the Robin any more. But it was awfully mean of her to say such things to our baby." Madge Bettany sent Joe out to the little shop at the Post Hotel to get some picture postcards that were wanted and let the subject drop. All the same, she contrived to impress on Matron that the girls were accustomed to helping in the house out of term time, and requested her not to interfere with them if she or Mademoiselle or Miss Cartew, who had spent the holidays with them, should use the children in any way. Matron heard her through the end. Then she shrugged her shoulders. "Very well, Miss Bettany, of course. You are mistress here, and it must be as you wish. All the same, I am not accustomed to having the girls messing about when I am busy, and I don't like it. Also, I should prefer that they should not come into my province to carry tales about me." Madge was furious. To begin with, there was a covert insolence in the matron's manner to which she was quite unaccustomed. She was very young, she knew, to be a head mistress, and she looked much younger than she was. Nevertheless, she had never met with anything but the utmost respect from everyone. Apart from that, she was wildly indignant that such a charge as tale-bearing should be made against the 3. More especially as not one of them had ever been guilty of such meanness. However, she controlled herself and said quietly, "I'm sorry, matron, but it is my wish that the girls should make themselves useful to those members of the staff whom I have mentioned, and I shall be glad if you will not interfere." "Very well," replied the matron. "I will carry out your wishes." The Robin soon recovered from Matron's tongue, and took care to keep out of the lady's way. It puzzled her, all the same. In all the 7 years she had lived, she had never met with anything but the tenderest love, and she had never dreamt that anyone could speak so unkindly when she was only trying to help. She referred the question to her beloved Joe. "It wasn't nasty, Zoe, was it?" she asked anxiously when the 2 were in bed that night. "I did never mean to be naughty. Tante Marguerite sent me with the soap. She truly did." "It's all right. You weren't naughty a bit," declared Joey lovingly. "And Robin, you mustn't repeat what I called Matron the other day, or it will make Madge unhappy. I shouldn't have said it to you." "I won't tell the others," promised the Robin. The door opened, and Matron came in. "Talking, Josephine?" she said. "What do you mean by keeping that child awake at this time of night? How dare you break the rules like this? I suppose that you think because the head mistress is your sister, you can do as you like." Joey's temper flared up at this unfair accusation. "I wasn't breaking rules," she said furiously. "School rules don't begin until Thursday, and I never behaved like that. My sister wouldn't allow it, even if I thought of doing it." "Does she allow you to be impudent to older people?" snapped Matron. "I wasn't impudent," retorted Joe. "At any rate, I didn't mean to be. And it is true that school rules don't count in the holidays. My sister knows the Robin and I talk at bedtime, and she doesn't mind so long as we stop when Juliet comes up. We always sleep till 8 in the morning, so it doesn't matter, she says." Joe may not have meant any rudeness, but her tone certainly belied her in that case, and Miss Cartho, who was passing, may be forgiven if she thought that the child was playing up Matron. She came in quietly. "Joey," she said, "what do I hear you say?" Joe was tongue-tied. Matron saw her chance and rushed in. "This child is most impudent to me, Miss Cathro," she declared. "She's breaking the rules by talking after she has gone to bed, and when I came in to put a stop to it, she answers me in the rudest manner." Miss Cathro did not like Matron any better than any of the others, but as a member of the staff she was obliged to uphold her. So she replied, "Joe, I'm surprised to hear this. You must apologize to the matron for your rudeness." At this, no less a person than the Robin chimed in. "Zoe has just told Matron that we didn't have school rules in holiday time," she said. "Matron did not know that," said Miss Cathro gravely. "Joey had no right to speak rudely to her. Come, Joe, I'm waiting. Apologize to Matron at once." If the Robin had not been there to notice all she said and did, Joey would have refused point blank. As it was, with her sister's words ringing in her ears, she mumbled, "I'm sorry if I spoke rudely to you, Matron." "I am glad to hear it," replied the matron. "I will overlook it this time, but another time you will not get off so lightly, if I have anything to say in the matter." With that she rustled out, leaving an indignant trio behind her. Miss Carthew knew better than to let the two children guess what she was feeling. She merely made them lie down and tucked them up before she said, "Good night, you two. Don't talk with Juliet when she comes up," and left them. Downstairs, however, she poured out her feelings to Mademoiselle, who sympathized with her. "The truth is, we have all got on so well up to this," declared Miss Cathro, when she had spent her wrath, "that we don't quite know where we are when we meet with anything unpleasant." I backed her up, of course, but I am convinced that Joey had some right on her side. Impertinence is not a failing of hers. If it had been that monkey, Grizel Cochrane, I shouldn't have been in the least surprised. Upstairs, the pair most concerned lay in silence. Joey was trying to recover her temper, and Robin was grieving because Joe had got in trouble. The baby adored the elder girl with her whole warm little heart, and she looked up to Joe as an older sister who petted her and looked after her, and any punishment of her idol meant sorrow to her. The people who had charge of the pair had soon found that the surest way of keeping Joey out of mischief was to remind her that the robin was almost invariably heartbroken when she had gotten into trouble. As Joey returned the baby's adoration, it was always a safe deterrent. Juliet came up half an hour later in a blissful ignorance of what had occurred, was so startled by the thick silence in the room that she nearly went for Madame, under the impression that the two must be ill. Then she saw the tears on the robin's cheeks and the black scowl on Joey's brow. So she said nothing, but went to bed as fast as she could. The next day Madge got the shock of her life when Joey begged to be set free from any more helping in the house. When the robin quite independently made the same request and gave as her reason that she didn't want to be where Matron was, Miss Bethany realized that there were wheels within wheels here. She said nothing about it, however, and merely keeping them employed for an hour or so in the schoolrooms, and then sending them out with Juliet for a tumble up the valley. It was very warm for the end of the April, so she gave them sandwiches, cakes, and milk, and told them to stay out till tea time. The weather had completely changed, and there was no fear of storms. They had a glorious time together, making the most of this last days of the holidays. Tomorrow the boarders would arrive, and on the next day school would begin. They came in to tea, which they had with Miss Bethany in the study, and then she chased them into a little room off the spiesal, where they found the walls were lined with open bookshelves, and there were piles of books standing about. "This is our library," explained the head. "I have been wanting to arrange some sort of thing before this, but there has never been a chance. Now Herr Minch and Herr Marini and Herr von Ecu have sent me all these books to leave gifts from Bernhilda, Giselle, and Wanda. So I've got the man to put up these shelves and brought all the books we had for the library here. I want to get them all put in order tonight, and I thought you three would like to help me. Mademoiselle is busy with Matron, and Miss Cartu, Miss Maynard, and Miss Wilson are hard at work on the games, timetables, and so on. If you can't help me, I must do it alone." "We'll help, of course," exclaimed the three, and help they did. When everything was done, the head sent the girls to get the Absindenzen, telling her sister to come back to her in the study when she had finished. Matron passed them in the passage, but she took no notice of them, and Jo hurried through her meal and was in the study in record time. "I'm here, Madge," she said. Madge held out her hand. "Come and sit down beside me," she said. Jo collapsed down beside her on the floor, laying her back against her sister's knee. "Why do you want me, Madge?" Madge made no reply at first, but simply sat there, her head on her silky hair. "Joey," she said at length, "I want to ask you to be very careful this term. It is going to be a little bit difficult, I'm afraid. You see, we shall have Elizaveta, who has never been accustomed to anyone like Matron. Then we have Matron herself. I know she does not quite understand us yet, but I hope she soon will, and you can do a lot towards helping her to do so." Joey wriggled uneasily. "Madge, I don't think so. Of course, I'll do as I'm told, and I won't say things before the little ones, if I can help it. But she doesn't like me, and she thinks I take advantage 'cause you're my sister." "Did she say so?" asked Madge, startled. I didn't mean to say that," mumbled Joey. "Forget it, Madge, can't you?" Madge nodded. "Yes, we know it isn't true, and that's all that really matters. Do your best, Joey. It's going to be the hardest term we've had yet, and I shall want all you can do to help. Remember, I've always trusted you as if you were a grown-up, and I shall go on doing so. avoid trouble with Matron, and help Elisaveta to be happy. Right-o, replied Joey. Then she suddenly wriggled to her knees. Madge, whisper. Isn't her voice horrid? Hush, Joey, you mustn't say things like that. I shan't after tonight, replied Joey readily. But unofficially, Madge, isn't it? Madge laughed. Then she gave in. It was safe enough with Joe. Yes, Joey, it's trying. Whatever you do, don't develop one like it. And now, we'll say no more about it. It's nearly 9 o'clock. There's a hard day before us tomorrow, you know. Kiss me and run off to bed. Joey got to her feet and flung her arms round her sister's neck and bestowed on her a hug that completely disarranged her hair. Good night, Madge. You're a dear, and I love you. Then she went off and fell asleep, making all sorts of good resolutions for the coming term.